Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen. Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei besamim, borei minei besamim. Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh, borei meorei ha'esh. Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai. Yai lai la 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 lai lai, yai lai la 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 lai lai, ya la lai 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 lai, ya la lai lai, ya la lai.
So as the blessings for Havdalah end, we pray for a day when there is no separation between the peace and rest of Shabbat and the rest of the week. We express our hope that even as the candle is extinguished, we will find a way to heal the world. So tonight, I have the privilege of interviewing Jennifer Reason, our very own CBS Director of Music, the host of Midday Classical on Capital Public Radio, a founding member of the modern chamber group City Water, one of our in-residence groups at Sacramento State, music director of Rogue Music Project, artistic director of Reconciliation Singers Voices of Peace, also known as RSVP, and an exquisite pianist and an alumna of Sacramento State School of Music. And I'm sure I haven't finished the whole list, but I'm exhausted just reading through that. Anyway, one of the reasons we're doing this tonight is so many of Jennifer's musical projects move music out of the typical and privileged spaces of classical music and are genuinely powerful collaborations across genres in an effort to be inclusive, diverse, and equitable. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining me this evening to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and in what you do to help heal the world. So welcome.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome. So, my first question is, even before COVID-19 and the most recent challenges our communities are facing, much of your work could be, I think, categorized as either arts for social justice or art for the public good. What motivates you to take on certain kinds of musical projects?
That's a great question. I think that music, especially music to a high standard, takes so much time and so much energy and so much of your life, blood and effort, right? So you want it to mean something, and you want to know that all of that outpouring of effort is going to make a tangible difference, and it's not just about you. Do you know what I mean? So I think music is singularly powerful in that way too. I think it kind of transcends some of the boundaries that you were just talking about. It's the universal language, as they say, and I think that music will speak to a lot of our human struggles in a way that maybe words can't. So I try to pick projects where I feel like the end result of participating in them will be some major benefit to the society, but also that music in particular will move people, which is why RSVP and Rogue Music Project I think are particularly effective, is the music moves people to get involved and moves people to give and to maybe see the people around them in a way that they haven't before. And I think that the music is singular in making that happen. So
well, and certainly I'd love, are beginning to talk about RSVP. So let's focus on them for a moment. And again, congratulations on that absolutely beautiful documentary, The Sound of Giving, where your 1 year of concerts were contributions to Joshua's House, a wonderful hospice for those who are homeless, who have nowhere to live and sadly nowhere to die, no safe space for that. So how did RSVP initially establish its mission to use, quote, the power of music to bring people together? And how do they select their various philanthropies?
great questions. I love the story of our founding. I'm not the founding director. I took over for Julie Adams, who founded the group. And it started as what she liked to call a food choir. And it was literally the product of a dream. She was asleep. She dreamed about a group of people singing, and that the singing turned into being able to give food to the hungry. And she sat up, she said, in the middle of the night and woke her husband and said, Doug, I have to start a food choir. And that is how it was born. And she did. She got up the next morning, and we started out singing to raise money for food closets and to literally give food to the homeless. And then as the group established itself and kind of got more involved in the community, we grew to things beyond just feeding the homeless. But we have a very specific mission when it comes to selecting our charities, and we have a board and a charity coordinator and people that seek groups out, but they have to fit a specific criteria. It has to be local. It has to be underfunded, so that the amount we're able to raise, being a smaller choir in Sacramento, that those funds will be significant to the organization and not just a drop in the bucket. Say, like, we want to make an actual impact, and we want to pick a group that needs the exposure that we're able to bring them. And then we want it to be human focused. So we don't do a lot of animal charities or things like that are all very worthwhile endeavors, but we just kind of focus on the needy in Sacramento. And maybe that's homeless, maybe that's hungry, maybe that's an addiction of some kind, but we focus on human-centric, underfunded Sacramento charities, which there are so many, and we have a list that I think we'll probably never get through. So
those are wonderful criteria, and I think you're right. Every nonprofit arts organization has to focus. They can't do it all.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that I found interesting in the documentary is that not only do you have certain criteria for selecting your philanthropy, but criteria for selecting the music. How do you work that out so that the music complements the fundraising that you're doing?
I love that question. It's the best and the hardest part of my job, quite honestly, is I want to pick music that is tailor-made for the theme of the charity. So I've found that that really hits people closest to home if we're singing about the issue as closely as we can anyway, that the charity is also focusing on. So for example, in the documentary, Joshua's house is a hospice. And so I chose songs about passing on, about heaven, about maybe you suffered on earth, but peace is coming. Those sorts of things. When we did another one, say we did this vets one, and we paired dogs with veterans with PTSD, and it was amazing. And so I kind of did companionship songs, or, you know, a little more patriotism of a bent. And, you know, so we just tie it hand in hand, and it's so hard. I either have not nearly enough music or an impossible mountain. It's never just right. So, but it's fun, and it allows for an incredible amount of creativity.
That's a wonderful opportunity. And you're right. There's just so much music out there that we don't normally think of as concert music.
Right,
So
right.
this gives you a chance to be a little bit more creative in those kinds of selections.
Exactly.
Let's shift gears a little bit. I think part of your day job these days is that you are now an announcer for classical music on Capital Public Radio. What do you see as the role of public radio today?
I think it is a monumental role, honestly. I think that public radio and public funded media is probably one of the last respites, if you will, for, you know what I mean? I don't want to say that we are the single bearers of truth. Do you know what I mean? But we do answer to the people in a way that other media outlets don't. Mm-hmm. And it's our donors, it's our local donors, and we have a responsibility to the community in a way that media moguls do not. And for me, that's a trustworthy source of information, and I think it's mattered more than it ever has.
Do you have a favorite part of that job?
Yeah, I totally do. I get to talk about music all day. and it's fun, and I get a lot of responses from the community, strangers that I don't know, that are very nice, saying, you know, I really feel educated, or I feel like you've really piqued my interest in these subject matters that I didn't know before. But I get to tell the little tidbits, you know, about the music, or maybe the dirty little secrets of the composers that you didn't know before. So it's fun, and it makes it relevant, and it's a conversation. And I think right now it's taken on another layer as well, as people are turning to music for comfort and for solace, mm-hmm. and for companionship, even in a way that they haven't before. A time of pandemic and a time of social unrest in pandemic, that's a singular state of being. So I'm happy to be the familiar voice. I'm happy to bring the comforting music. It feels important.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about this present moment in COVID-19, when we're not allowed to bring musicians and actors and artists together in the way that we form community.
Right.
And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be some time before we can play in front of live audiences. So as we anticipate that, I know you've got a number of different projects. What do you see as your plans for various projects and for alternative ways of fulfilling our musical missions?
That is the question of the century, isn't it? I really feel like this is where everyone, and myself included, is kind of sitting in a we don't know place, or a I guess we'll see place, or when we'll see how long it takes to get the restrictions lifted. And in the meantime, people are struggling and just doing their best, you know, with a lot less than we had before. And unfortunately, there aren't any clear answers. Like what if we don't get to be together again and sing together again, or play for audiences again? That's the foundation of our art form for centuries. That's a terrifying thought, and I think a lot of us don't even want to really consider that might actually be on the table. And I know we're trying to make a lot of technological adjustments, like we're having a fabulous Zoom call, you know, and unfortunately that that only goes so far when you're making art and you're making music. It's so limited, and you can't even play at the same time. Do you know what I mean? And you got to layer videos and got to have technological savvy for that. And it's not the same. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, and I think, certainly at Sac State, we're really struggling for our students' sake, right? I mean, we did get permission to have some face-to-face music classes. Again, that's a double-edged sword as well, because I want to make sure our faculty and staff and students are healthy. And then we were told that we had to limit it to no more than 10 people in a room. So I told our choral director, you get 2 sopranos, 2 altos, 2 tenors, and 2 basses. You're a accompanist, and you're done. And I think people see this kind of technology and some of the wonderful things that have been done and think that's relatively easy to do.
Right. That's so not true. It's to any standard of quality. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to learn to sing with a click track, which does not sound very, very appetizing to me as well. Talking about students a little bit, I know that you're a proud alumna of Sacramento State and the School of Music, Stingers Up. And clearly, as I said, I think one of the toughest things right now is figuring out how to promote arts education,
right,
during both budget and COVID-19 related crises. What does arts education mean to you, and what do you see as your role in it?
For me, I think arts education is fundamental. I think it builds a complete person. I think it gives people a voice and an outlet and a means of interacting with the world that can only come from the arts. And it doesn't even have to be music, but music is really fantastic, in particular for that. And I think if we are without that education, we're without whole students being sent out into the world. And that is heartbreaking, and it's a little bit scary. So you know what I mean? I'm trying to do one-on-one coachings and stuff, but it's so hard. You don't realize how much connection is lacking when I'm yelling at a screen.
Well, and even wanting to, I know David's teaching his lessons online. He can't play a number with a student.
Exactly.
Or really kind of just reach out and adjust fingering or do that kind of
what's doing
all those things that you teach us as we're singing together. And if you can't see body language, that's difficult with that as well. Yeah, a little bit frustrating. So obviously we're sad that we at Congregation Beth Shalom aren't singing as with you this summer. The governor of California has said, even if religious institutions are open, and they've been closed back down again, no singing, no chanting. Any thoughts or suggestions on how Congregation Beth Shalom can bring music into our spiritual sustenance?
Yes. I've been thinking a lot about it, honestly. And I think the answer is solos and very, very distanced, maybe duos or trios that feel comfortable with that sort of thing, that are instrumental. So I've done a project. It's a secret. I'm giving you a heads up now. But we're doing a collaboration with Sac Ballet, which actually gave me ideas for High Holy Days with Congregation Beth Shalom. And they've filmed the dancers. They had me at the piano, and they had 2 singers across the room with masks. But we were able to put together a beautiful performance. So, and then it's edited after the fact and stuff. But I think that, and I've spoken with some soloists as well, the cellist from Kol Nidre, interested in doing this. I know. And they're solo, string players and piano players that aren't playing wind instruments, that aren't singing, and we're able to distance there are venues that are allowing us to record under those conditions. So I think that's the solution, because we can do so much music that way.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea, and so I'll bring that to my meeting tomorrow night. I won't tell them the secret, but I'll do that. To close, is there? I've been watching a lot of Dan Rather's interviews, so I'm stealing this closing question from him. Is there a question that I should be asking you, or a final comment that you'd like to make to close out our Havdalah evening?
My final comment, honestly, is I think everyone is handling all of these hardships differently. And I just want to encourage that these sorts of conversations just among everyone. And it's so easy to feel isolated, and it's so easy to feel bereft of community and bereft of activities that we're doing together, that the more we can talk and look at each other and say, or even say, I'm having such a hard time, you know, that's everything. So I think the question is to everyone, how are you doing? And how can we help you? And know that you can call.
Well, thank you for hearing our call as I called you to do this evening, and for all that you do to bring communities together through music, whether it's in our synagogue community or, you know, the reach that you have through public radio. If we have an opportunity, I'm going to ask that we close this after our interview with a clip of our SVP.
Yeah.
I will tell you that when David and I did our service last week, one of the things we tried to do, we were not successful, is that we embedded a new clip of a youth choir doing Heal Us Now.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lovely piece out there right now. So it made us at least feel like we were still connecting with some of that beautiful music. So we will continue. And again, thank you. And hopefully we will meet either virtually or even better in person in the not too distant future.
One day soon, I hope. Thank you so much for calling and asking me to talk with you.
Have a lovely evening and take care of yourself. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
In my heart's sequestered chambers lie truths stripped of poet's gloss. Words alone are vain and vacant, and my heart is mute in response to aching silence, memory summons half-heard voices, and my soul finds primal eloquence and wraps me in song, wraps me in song. If you would comfort me, sing me a lullaby. If you would win my heart, sing me a love song. If you would mourn me and bring me to God, sing me a requiem, sing me to touching me, all love and passion, pain and pleasure, touching me, grief and comforts me,